Hey everybody, it's Gary Lucas, and it's 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon here in New York City in the West Village. It's a beautiful, crisp, autumnal atmosphere out there. It's bright. It's been raining for a few days, and people are out enjoying the sunshine. And the good news is most of them are wearing masks. That's progress, I guess, although the levels are rising. High water everywhere. But anyway, I'd love to be here to play for you, and let's just, what are we going to play today? Well, we'll see. And the first thing I have to ask, are you guys getting alerts that I'm about to play? Maybe you sign up for them, but I hope all the regulars are at least being informed. I've tried to stick to the schedule with only occasional aberrations, usually at the behest of Caroline, who's working away in the other room here. But all right, let's just get going. Swim into, I'm into what you do, what you do. I'm banging on your door up in the deep blue sky. To the warm part of that country I am swimming to. 'Cause everywhere you go is everywhere I go. Banging on your door up in the deep blue sky. Let's go swimming. All set to go, let's go swimming. All set to go, let's go swimming. All set to go, let's go swimming. Yes, that is the theme from Seven Faces of Dr. Love. Talked about that and played that before. That's just one of my favorite things to play. And that film by George Pell, I remember sitting in the theater as a little boy in the first year of its run. I think it was 61. And thinking to myself, well, anyway, if you see the film, it ends with Dr. Lowe, this magical, mythical personage of possibly Asian descent who also is able to mutate into the abominable snowman, Merlin the magician, all sorts of deities, Medusa. He's unisexual, he's amorphous, androgynous. Anyways, this is a great film. He rides off into the sunset on a donkey, on a mule, with a Chinese coolie hat and a wispy mustache. This is Tony Randall, Mr. Odd Couple, Felix, and, well, you know that show. And he gives a soliloquy, which is a voiceover to the little boy protagonist who wants to run away to join the circus. And it's really worth checking out the ending of this film. But the whole film is great. I can't paraphrase it exactly, but I know that sitting in the theater, I said to myself, I want to run away and join the circus. This was exactly the kind of thing that would appeal to my tender sensibilities. And actually, when I joined Captain Beefheart, it was sort of an impulse not unakin, let us say, to that impulse that I had as a little boy, because Tom Van Vliet, among other things, was a superb ringmaster, sometimes a little bit too heavy on the whip cracking, but nevertheless, you know, he fulfilled a lot of roles as a kind of magician who was, you know, had other mythological people, at least as they projected characters on stage with him. And anyway, check out The Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe. And that music is actually by the great Lee Harline. And there are themes in it, too, I think, that are not far afield from the film Hans Christian Andersen, starring Danny Kaye, which had music by, I think Sylvia Fine, his wife, wrote some of the lyrics. I'm trying to think who the composer was, but they seem to have swapped themes there, especially on the Oriental tip. Whoops. I mean, yes, I'm not supposed to use that, the O word, but that was used for many years to describe the music of vaguely Eastern, Middle Eastern, and Far Eastern origin. And I was taken to task once for using it in the descriptive liner note of my album of Chinese pop. And I don't know. I was trying to go for that old flavor in the tradition, but you know, it's hard. I didn't get the memo, in other words, until too late about that one. But I try so hard to stay on the. No, I don't. The PC tip. I don't know. I just call them as I see them, I guess, as they crop up. But no offense to anybody, or you know, I'm an equal opportunity offender, let's say. So I want to thank, because I've been remiss in this actually at this point, two people who've been real stalwarts during the pandemic. I think I must have done now between 70 or 80 of these shows. More or less 3 times a week, same time, same place, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays at 3 p.m. Now it's Eastern Standard Time, as opposed to Eastern Daylight Time before. But Pippa Casey is one of the longest viewers that I know of, and she lives in Sydney, Australia, and gets up to watch this. It must be 5 a.m. her time, and she's posted about it. She's a music student going to University of Sydney, and she interviewed me for a paper, which I think she got an honors on. So I want to say thank you, Pippa, very much for your continued support and generosity. And also Mark Green, who lives out in the Midwest, who's a very erudite guitar-playing guy. And he's been lovely as far as a continued contributor to my virtual tipping jar, which the PayPal address is always usually at the top of the page here. So thank you guys. And Also, I want to make note, I got a book in the mail today from my friend Jeffrey O'Brien. And it's a book of his poetry. Jeffrey is a really excellent writer of long-form nonfiction pieces, a lot of which have been anthologized and published in the New York Review of Books, among other publications, which I'm a regular subscriber for years and years too. I thoroughly recommend them, and I thoroughly recommend any of Jeffrey's writings. He has a book about music a collection of his music-related pieces called Sonata for Jukebox, which is one of the best. I mean, writing about music is like talking about sex, or no. You know how that goes. It's really hard to encapsulate in words more or less transitory audio sensations, which at heart are really chemical reactions in the brain. I mean, that's one description of what music does to you, as it, enchants you and overtakes you or repels you, depending on your sensibilities. I'm a fan of all sorts of music, as is Jeffrey, and so there are pieces in there. I think he wrote some of this at the Yaddo Arts Colony on a fellowship, but they're so miraculous in their description of the power of music as it strikes you to transform you and your day and mood, that I gotta recommend that book and all of his books. But this one, Who Goes There, has a great ominous cover of a city street in, I think, Italy. I mean, I asked him when he first mentioned this on Facebook, because he's my Facebook friend, if the title, Who Goes There, was not a reference to a short story by the American sci-fi writer John W. Campbell, which later became the basis for the film The Thing, Howard Hawks' version, and there have been 2 remakes since. I particularly like the second one with Kurt Russell very much, but the first one with James Arness as the monster, who later went on to Gunsmoke fame, is really a fantastic milestone in the history of science fiction cinema in my book, and should be enjoyed probably first, because there's nothing like it in black and white. And the picture on this cover, actually, of this dark alleyway, I don't know how it's reproducing her, but I know it'll be backwards, the way I got the camera set up. This reminds me of one of the end scenes of the film where they booby-trapped this corridor to kind of bushwhack the Thing, the human carrot vegetable monster that feeds on human blood. I don't want to say anymore, but it was the kind of thing that really grabbed me when I saw it, and I showed it in my horror film society with my fellow horror movie aficionado Bill Moseley at Yale in the early 70s, and we got a great turnout for that film. So I'm going to check out Jeffrey's poetry book, his latest one, ASAP, but right now I'm ensconced in the middle of this really intriguing book by Ira Robbins called Marc Bolan, Killed in Crash. Now, this is Marc Bolan's season. He had really only one hit single in the U.S., which was Get It On, Bang a Gong, which featured Flo and Eddie on background vocals. But, he was ginormous, as Keith Richard liked to say, in the UK and in Europe. And I was aware of Marc's work as a young whippersnapper. My friend Fred Perry, who's the guy who turned me on to Captain Beefheart, lent me an album. I think it was Prophet, Seers, and Sages, The Poets of All Ages, on the Regal Zonophone label, if I'm not, or maybe Parlophone, I gotta check. But it had the song Deborah, which I've been known to do when the moon is full. There's a version of it that I did on SoundCloud, and in fact, I did another version for Hal Wilner, the late, great Hal Wilner, producer for, no, wait, I'm getting it wrong. I did it for John Zorn. That's a funny story in itself. But Hal is, before he died, he finished a really, spectacular, big budget Marc Bolan tribute with a lot of big names on it, which I haven't heard, but I'm sure it's great. I think there are clips on YouTube. Check that out. But there's another one that we did. This is about the year 2000. So I contributed to this one on John Zorn's Tzaddik Records label, and it was part of his Radical Jewish Culture series. So I'll tell you a little story. I hope John isn't too offended by it, but anyway, John pretty much ran the label, and they've continued to put out amazing records. By his lonesome, he was the major domo, and you got X amount of money, not a lot of money, and we're expected to turn in a great album, and most people complied with that. And so he asked me to do one, and then I did a second one. But on the first one, John would show up at the mastering stage. That's the only time you'd see him unless you asked him to play on the record. Then he would show up at your recording sessions to play. And he was great. He'd just come in there and blow the roof off, the sucker of the studio. So at the mastering session, I came in with a whole plastic bag full of DAT tapes, because that was the medium in those days to get the highest quality possible recording if you weren't going into a studio. And I had a Pro DAT recorder here, which died a death some years ago, and I scrapped it because it was also notoriously unstable medium with a lot of glitches and signal noise on the tape. If you weren't careful, it would just crop up. So we were sifting through everything, and he was putting them through the Zorn smell test. Is this Jewish? What's this? Is this Jewish? No, I mean, it was just on a musical basis. He was just listening with his engineer as to what was unfolding to be my first record for him, which is called Busy Being Born. And I gave him a recording of Deborah, and he listened to that and he said, "Well, why is this on this?" I said, "Because it's by Mark Bolan. His real name is Mark Feld. And he's Jewish." Or he was Jewish. He was dead at that point. So John said, "Really? I'd like to do a whole album of that. If I want to do it, I don't think it should be on this album. I think, I'd rather have a whole album of Mark Bolan songs." So anyway, it got rejected. I got the tape back anyway. And about 8 months later, I heard through the downtown underground musician grapevine of Lower Manhattan that Zorn had commissioned from many different artists Mark Bolan versions, but he hadn't asked me. So I called him up, and I said, "John, who gave you this idea?" I said, "Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah, okay, well, we're going to send you $1,000 and turn something in." So that I did, and Deborah's on that record. Thanks, John. I'm glad you ran with the ball. And I'm glad Hal ran with the ball all those years later. And Mark Bolan lives, which is a roundabout way to say, get this book by Ira Robbins, who was the editor, and I believe still is, of Trouser Press, a great music appreciation, critical magazine. It had quite a long run as a magazine, and I think now it's only an online magazine, but he has excellent taste in music. He's an Anglophile like me. He covered the emerging punk and then later new wave and then what do they call it, new romantic, blah, blah, scene ad infinitum. And he's become quite a novelist. And this is one of his most recent efforts. And it's really a fascinating read because he gets into the mind of the music biz of the late 70s, early 80s, and tracing the rise and fall. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's some somewhat recognizable figures. I'm only about 40 pages into it, but it's fascinating, and I recommend it. Mark Bolan, Killed in Crash. It's very good. And then the last book I want to talk about, I'm doing a lot of hawking today, right? Hawk and Chinik, is Vivian Goldman, my old friend, Viv Goldman. And she has a book, Revenge of the She-Punks, A Feminist Music History from Polystyrene to Pussy Riot. And I've known Viv and loved her writing for years and years and years. And she has a great history. She was early champion of reggae music and a close personal friend of Bob Marley's, and wrote a definitive biography of Bob. So if you like his music, check that out. And she's continued to write. and teach. Actually, she's known as the punk professor, and she's taught a course in punk rock at NYU, I believe at the Steinhardt School of Music. Correct me if I'm wrong, Viv. She spends a lot of time still in Jamaica. The first couple of months of the pandemic, I know she was based there. And she just put out a single, which is I think the second single that she's ever recorded with some of the guys from Killing Joke. And how do I know that? I don't know. A friend just sent me a press release. I didn't get sent this. What's the matter, Viv? You don't like... So, but I'm giving it a plug, as you know, completely unheard, but she's always worth checking out. And this is a great book. Although I wrote her about some, I thought, grievous omissions, but you can't really write about everybody, and you know, scenes as they are come and go, they're not really set in stone. But if you're interested in like Polystyrene of X-Ray Specs, for instance, get this book. And she was a good friend of Ari Ups, who I did a tribute to. I think it was the only, me and the drummer were the only male personages on stage at the Bowery. No, what did we do? The Music Hall of Williamsburg. That was a lot of fun, with a lot of the former Slits showing up, and Nina Cherry was there, who's great, and I knew her father, Don Cherry, and anyway, it's like a wheel. So Vivian Goldman, Revenge of the She-Punks, Ira Robbins, Mark Bolan, Killed in Crash, Jeffrey O'Brien, Who Goes There? What an intriguing bunch of books to conjure with, and support these artists. And while you're at it, support me. Here's Rish Day. I just got through Discogs, a beautiful unopened copy. This thing went to number 4 on the world music charts, or maybe it was number 2. I don't know. But it was up there. And it's me and Najma Akhtar. A beautiful fusion of blues and raga and ghazal music. And I mentioned this last time. I just got this in. A Russian edition of my Coming Clean album, Gary Lucas and God's Monsters, on the Exotica label, with all sorts of bonus tracks. You get Audubon on this, and Astronomy Domine. I had about 4 different versions of Coming Clean. One US version, a French version, a UK version, and this Russian version. And they're all slightly different, and they're all now on the merch page of my website, so... Did I run out the clock yet? All right, now I got to play some more, so here we go. Well, that became a song called Nayadin on that Rishteh album. And Najma did a fantastic job supplying a beautiful vocal and melody line, much like Jeff Buckley did. And just want to say I'm still buzzing from the trip to the Netherlands. What a great country and what a fantastic place to be. Out of supposedly harm's way here in New York, out of the frying pan into the fire. But I think we brought it back alive as far as like a great album. And I've posted now 2 clips which appear on the So What's Next Festival Facebook page. One of my Spanish Dracula performance on Halloween night. It went out. That was recorded a couple days earlier in an empty theater, just facing some technicians. And also the performance with Peter Willems, this great young Dutch acoustic award-winning bass virtuoso and singer. And then we recorded a whole album in Maastricht. I can't wait to hear the final mixes. It went really well. And that's posted also these links on my website if you can't find that page. And check them out. It's good stuff. And okay, until Tuesday, please take care of yourselves. Wear the masks. Wear the damn mask. What is so easy? It's not that much impingement on your personal liberty, is it? So I think short of that and the rest of it is social distancing, wash those hands. And I got to go do it now because who knows what diseases this thing is carrying. It's from 1941, but it hasn't killed me yet. Until Tuesday at 3 o'clock, okay? I remain Gary Lucas. Love you guys. And see you and have a wonderful weekend. Okay, bye now.